can!
It's over!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So a good performance from...
Hi, you're watching Firstpost. I am Gursheen Garland. Let's get started. On the show today, Rohit Sharma lost his cool after a journalist asked the Indian captain to address the reports surrounding his future. The Indian captain snapped at the journalist for comparing his form in Test cricket with one-day internationals. Is Rohit Sharma feeling the heat due to his poor run? And will the ICC Champions Trophy decide Rohit's future? Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order to ban transgender athletes from women's sports in America. And while the decision faced criticism, Trump is not willing to stop there yet. The Republican is planning to put pressure on the International Olympic Committee or the IOC to come up with a uniform transgender athlete ban. More on that on the show, but first, let's take a look at the latest headlines in Sports 360. Starting with cricket, India's noted umpire Nitin Menon and match referee Javagal Srinath will not take part in the ICC Champions Trophy. The tournament is set to be hosted in Pakistan and Dubai. Menon cited personal reasons for his exclusion, while Srinath said he wants to take a break. The decision comes after India decided not to send its team to Pakistan over security concerns. In the American NFL, Kansas City Chiefs players Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce say they are happy to play in front of US President Donald Trump. The two players expressed their excitement after the White House confirmed Trump's presence for the Super Bowl match on Sunday. Kelce is dating pop star Taylor Swift. She is also a longtime Democratic Party supporter who openly backed Kamala Harris during last year's US presidential election campaign. In English football, Newcastle United entered the final of the Carabao Cup after beating Arsenal 2-0 in the second leg of the semi-final. Having already lost the first leg 2-0, Arsenal failed to make an impact at St James's Park. Goals from Jacob Murphy and Anthony Gordon took Newcastle to their second Carabao Cup final in 3 seasons. Meanwhile, in Brazil, Neymar had a lackluster return to his boyhood club Santos. He failed to make an impact in Santos's 1-1 draw against league champions Botafogo. Neymar had multiple shots on goal but failed to convert them. And in Spain, the trial involving former Spanish football president Luis Rubiales and World Cup winner Jenny Hermoso has taken an ugly turn. The trial concerns Rubiales forcefully kissing Hermoso after Spain won the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup. Hermoso's brother has now alleged that the footballer was pressurized to downplay the kiss. This was by Spain's former national coach Jorge Villalde. One of Hermoso's former teammates, Misa Rodriguez, has backed the new allegation. One of the most challenging jobs in the world is that of an Indian cricketer. While it does bring the stardom and fanfare along, it also attracts the added pressure of carrying the hopes of 1.4 billion people. And that pressure is doubled when you are leading the men in blue. Rohit Sharma is the biggest example of that. The Indian captain is feeling the heat, which has left an otherwise calm Rohit rather furious. After the drama and chaos during the Border Gavaskar Trophy, where Rohit Sharma missed the final test, the Indian captain returned at the helm of affairs for one-day international series against England. And mind you, this is not an easy time to be in Rohit's shoes, because currently his spot in the Indian team is in danger, especially after reports emerged that India's Cricket Board, or BCCI, asked Rohit to lay out his future plans after the ICC Champions Trophy, which starts in less than 2 weeks. And given this is a hot topic in Indian cricket, Rohit was asked to address the reports in a press conference before the first ODI started against England. And a furious Rohit snapped at the journalist.
How is it relevant that I talk about my future plans
when there are 3 ODIs and a Champions Trophy? The reports have been going on for a number of years, and I am not here to clarify those reports.
A response like that is expected when a sportsperson is asked about his retirement plans. But not if you are Rohit Sharma. Because the Indian captain and press conferences are match made in heaven. Rohit is known for his quirky and witty media briefings and his sarcastic take on even the most severe issues. But Rohit snapping at the journalist highlighted the kind of pressure he is feeling. Because lately, there have been grey clouds over his spot in the Indian team. And it all started with Rohit retiring from the T20 format after the World Cup win last year. A fitting end to his glorious T20 international career. So Rohit was left with only 2 formats, where he could take part and even lead India. But out of the 2 formats, Rohit failed to deliver in one, and that is Test cricket. During the Border Gavaskar Trophy, the Indian captain was unable to leave a mark both as a batter and as a captain. In 5 innings, Rohit Sharma only scored 31 runs. A lackluster show for any batsman, forget even for a captain. And it wasn't just Rohit's batting that was worrying. His captaincy was a bigger concern. He was slammed by pundits and fans for his poor decision making. Now, all that criticism led to Rohit missing out the final test. And while Rohit still claimed that he isn't done with Test cricket yet, the possibility of him making a comeback will be quite difficult, especially after the poor performance in domestic cricket. During the Ranji Trophy representing Mumbai, Rohit scored just 3 and 28 across 2 innings against the team from Jammu and Kashmir, which makes this ODI series against England and the Champions Trophy vital for Indian captain's future. Because this is the only format where he is still considered a starter.
For me, the 3 games and the Champions Trophy are very important. My focus is on these games, and I will see what happens thereafter. This is a different format, a different time. As usual, as cricketers, we know there will be ups and downs, and I have faced a lot in my career. So this is nothing new to me.
The Champions Trophy is crucial for the Indian captain to hold on to his place. And not just Rohit Sharma, the ICC event and India's ODI series versus England is also important for another senior player. And that is none other than Virat Kohli. However, Kohli is already having a rough start to the series. He has already been forced to sit out in the first match due to a knee injury. And clearly, the road ahead is difficult for both the star players because the BCCI is currently in a rogue mode. They are clamping down on superstar culture by implementing a 10-point diktat. A diktat majorly directed at the big-named players, forcing them to return to domestic cricket if they want to play international cricket. And now, the BCCI is aiming for future events. And the reason for this is simple. The T20 side is already flourishing under captain Surya Kumar Yadav. And India would be aiming to defend their T20 World Cup title when they co-host the tournament with Sri Lanka next year. At the same time, the men in blue would be looking to groom the next generation in other formats too, because the next edition of an ODI World Cup will take place in 2027, more than 2 years from now, and so will the World Test Championship. If superstars like Kohli and Rohit do not perform well, the BCCI would be forced to take a decision on their behalf, and the Champions Trophy in Pakistan and Dubai could be their final straw. US President Donald Trump has his own ways of making America great again, be it imposing strict immigration agenda to prioritize American citizens or implementing a policy to keep quote-unquote women's sports free from men. Trump is taking brutal route to revamp the American policies and get rid of the old regime. In the latest development, Trump signed an executive order to ban transgender athletes from women's sports. The Republican has lived up to his election campaign promise. And after signing the executive order, the US president said, and I quote, "The war on women's sports is over," end quote. But Trump isn't done with this just yet. He wants it to be implemented across all the international sporting events, including the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles. But will the International Olympic Committee comply? Our next report tells you more.
The first 100 days for a president in the United States of America are the most important period. And the 47th president, Donald Trump, is making sure to make the most of it. Though with the amount of changes Donald Trump is making in his initial presidency regime, the first 100 days list could turn into a booklet. Donald Trump has signed another executive order, a policy to ban transgender athletes from competing in women's sport. The Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports order will require federally funded entities to adhere to the Trump administration's interpretation of sex, which is just two genders according to the new regime.
It will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
And just like with every Trump policy, the Republican treated this one as a war too, a war that ended after signing the order.
With this executive order, the war on women's sports is over. Under the Trump administration, we will defend the proud tradition of female athletes, and we will not allow men to beat up, injure, and cheat our women and our girls. From now on, women's sports will be only for women.
The order will make it mandatory for the Department of Education to penalize schools that permit transgender athletes to compete. And the schools found in non-compliance could face the risk of losing federal funding. Basically, Trump is saying it's either my way or the highway. The order was part of Donald Trump's broad election campaign, which focused on keeping women's sports free from men, something Trump had promised to implement as soon as he assumed power. But instead, it coincided with the National Girls and Women in Sports Day, which is why when the order was passed, Trump supporters and athletes were all in praises for the US president's decision. Trump has repeatedly targeted the transgender issue in the country. Ever since Trump took oath on the 20th of January, he has passed multiple orders to bring about his idea of America. Trump signed an order to rid the military of transgender troops and also issued an order to restrict gender transition procedures for people under the age of 19. So, when Trump banned transgender athletes from women's sports, it was met with heavy criticism from the community.
For a lot of trans youth out there, it just means, once again, their country's declaring war on them. And this is going to affect people's mental health. I'll admit it's affected mine, and I'm 53 years old. I mean, but for young people coming up, especially for these kids, and especially in middle school and high school, this is very difficult.
Today is another example, at the highest level in seat and position and power in the world, watching the new president of the United States articulate complete, utter nonsense and doing complete harm to the most vulnerable communities in his own society within the boundaries of the United States, which will have generational harm long term.
But the US president seems to be least bothered by the criticism that's coming his way. Instead, he wants to take it a step further. Donald Trump is also pushing the International Olympic Committee, or the IOC, to implement this rule on all international tournaments, and it will be interesting to see how the IOC will react to this. Last year, the same governing body defended Algerian boxer Iman Khalif and Taiwanese boxer Lin Yuting's participation at the Paris Olympics, despite many, including Elon Musk, criticizing the gender confusion of these two boxers.
I have explained before the issues we have. It is not as easy as some may in this cultural war may now want to portray it, that the XX or the XY is the clear distinction between the men and women. This is scientifically not true anymore, and therefore these two are women, and they have the right to participate in the women's competition. And this has nothing to do with inclusion in any way.
The next edition of the Olympics will be organized in Los Angeles under Trump's regime. Will the IOC feel the same about these two boxers, although boxing hasn't been included at the LA Olympics yet due to governance issue, because the sports doesn't have a governing body yet? But if the event is organized, will the IOC still support the participation of these two, including other athletes whose gender is debatable? Even if they do, the Trump government wouldn't allow it to, because Trump has directed Homeland Security to deny visa applications if the gender of an athlete is debatable. The LA Olympics would be a battleground between the IOC's beliefs and Trump's strict policies. Athletes like Iman Khalif and Li Yunting may have gotten away at the Paris Games, but will the LA Olympics favor them? Looks highly unlikely under the Trump regime, because Trump has already ended the war surrounding women's sports. Anything new would turn into a new battle, a battlefield currently favoring the US president.
And transgender insanity the hell out of our schools.
And finally, it's time for Last Serve. Portuguese football maestro Cristiano Ronaldo turned 40 yesterday, and his birthday was celebrated in a grand fashion worldwide. From Bolivia to New York, fans paid tribute in their own unique way. Over at the Times Square, fans even unveiled Ronaldo's statue. Take a look.
I can't believe it. The GOAT, the greatest of all time, the best player of all time, best athlete, best person of all time. My idol right here, Cristiano Ronaldo. Let's go. No Messi. No Messi. No Messi. No Messi. No
That's all for today on Firstpost. Thank you for joining us. I am Gushin Garland and we'll see you right back here tomorrow. Stay informed and stay tuned to Firstpost.
We're calling the show Vantage. We hope you like what we put together for you. Touted as the minimum defense from that video. India's neighbors were the first to send the special edition of Vantage live from the White House throughout the city. Hindu Mandir in we're on our way to Tel Aviv. City measure, but it's also the perfect way to drive.
I don't think that
Prime Minister of Bhutan, Sherin Tagwe. Welcome to
60% of the world's
office. Prime Minister Modi did the iron.
We were actually
How are you doing? How do you like? It's been 1 year since that meeting. Iron bars separate you from the outside. Out the vote effort. Trump had, it says, and at $4.3 trillion. 300 billion by 2030. That's what we need to tackle climate change.